Okay, good evening, everyone. Today is November 13th. It is 6:30 p.m., and we are going to call to order a meeting of the Westcat Board of Directors. May we have the roll call, please?
Present.
Present.
Tiffany Grimsley,
Present.
Tom Hansen,
Here.
Norma Martinez-Rubin,
Here.
Cameron
Here.
Okay, the first item on the agenda was the Pledge of Allegiance. Will we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And next on the next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there?
Second.
Okay, we have a move in a second. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes. The agenda is approved. Public communications, do we have any? No. No public communications. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. Is the motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Chair, if we can just make one minor correction for the record. The minutes that were submitted have my name as, just need to be corrected so that they reflect your name as chair.
Okay, thank you. Do we need a second for that?
1.1 through 1.6 with the corrections from Vice Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and then I have a question for discussion.
Okay.
I guess this is to our general manager. So I attended via Zoom. I think the reason my name isn't listed is because I was on Zoom but not sort of registered to be on Zoom. Just to make sure that was the reason why that was the way it is.
Yeah, so officially you were not part of the quorum.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, item 2.0. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to vote. Okay, all in favor of the motion to amend to approve the amended consent calendar?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? It passes. Okay, and now, item 2.0. We are moving to closed session. Sorry?
We'll be back soon.
We'll be back soon. Okay, good evening once again. We are reconvening the meeting of the November 13th Westcat Board of Directors meeting. We've returned from closed session. There were no reportable actions in closed session today. So moving on to item 3.0, items for board action discussion. First is a presentation and discussion of Westcat Evolution Comprehensive Operations Analysis.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask our consultant, Ronnie Kraft, to take this item. But in essence, it's an update on discussions we had last month or 2 months ago about service at the waterfront, microtransit sustainability, suitability study, a look into our dial ride system and some of the school services we provide. So.
Working? There we go. Hi. All right, so last meeting, I presented a set of recommended service changes for the fixed routes. And as you recall, these were based on data analysis and the public engagement results. And they were constrained by having a net zero cost to the operating budget. And we heard your concerns about discontinuing service to the waterfront. So today, I'm going to present an alternative recommendation for providing service to the waterfront. I'm going to go over a microtransit suitability assessment. I'm going to look at opportunities for the dial-a-ride services and also look at opportunities for school transit. So first, the waterfront. We figured out a way to continue to serve the waterfront at the same level but with Route 15 instead of JX. So this map, it's revised slightly, shows that we added a leg going at the beginning of Route 15 along John Muir Parkway west to the waterfront bus stop, and then back again, and then before continuing its clockwise route along Willow Ave back to the Hercules Transit Center. So our recommendation is to still eliminate the JX and reallocate it to the J and JPX service so that it can come more often. Adding a leg on Route 17 or Route 15 adds about 7 minutes per trip, but this is still much less than it took on the JX. There is still actually an overall savings on time and miles for Route 15 due to the elimination of the low activity loops that were on Route 15. And there's also a savings by using Route 15 since it's already going along some of the same alignment that the JX was. So it's eliminating a little bit of duplicate service. This aligns the low activity at the waterfront bus stop with the service that is meant for coverage, Route 15 local. It would be the same number of trips per day, and overall it would cost less for the reasons I just explained. Questions? Comments?
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
It's okay. Oh, first, can we go back to the slide for Route 15?
Yeah.
Please. First of all, thank you. I want to thank you. I was on Zoom during that call, but Director Sasai mentioned this, and I had also got a chance to speak on this as well. I think this is important for Hercules and the folks that live out at the waterfront. The next nearest access is basically San Pablo, so it's a little bit of a walk for some folks. I wondered if you could tell me the streets, because we don't have this in our presentation. I'm just wondering what streets it is, just so I can kind of visualize if that can be done.
Right. So there also, that reminds me, there's one big caveat. So it goes, where it would head west is John Muir Parkway, and then where it turns around is
It's Bayfront, so it's the same routing that the
Okay, just switching the line that services that area. And so would this give us daily service versus just the commute hour service?
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah, so
Increased
all day.
service. Okay, this is good. Okay, I'll have more, but thank you for that. And thank you for the folks who so quickly turned that around for us. So thank you.
Sure. So now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So what was the net, like, benefit savings? Because I know when that was brought to our attention, there was like 1.5 passengers per day for that area at this time. What is the percentage, since we're looking at eliminating the loop in Viewpoint area and another area? Do those have a higher passenger rate per hour or per day, or is it about the same?
Oh, much lower for those loops. There was almost nothing. And the ones that did actually see like closer to 1 to 2 average people per day are still close to where the other stops along the recommended route is.
And, I mean, in the future, that's going to be a needed space transit in the future when the train station, maybe the ferry station in the future arrive. But so.
Right, and there is still development planned for that area, which would inhibit the bus turning around, and that will need to be a whole other conversation with the city to figure that out. But until then.
All right, and then when it makes sense, can you describe what microtransit is?
Yeah, that was my next thing.
Okay, thanks.
Great. All right. So as part of this project, as part of Westcat Evolution, we wanted to look at the potential for microtransit service as a way to provide equal or better transit service while still maintaining a similar or even lower operating costs. So microtransit is another name for a flexible transit service, which has been around for a long, long time. It operates according to rider demand rather than along a set route or with a set timetable. And it's reemerged as microtransit in the last 20, 15 years because new technology has enabled it to respond to passenger requests in near real time. And there's dynamic routing that's done for you. And so it's much, much faster, which is really what makes it so much more attractive. This is also what makes it still inherently less efficient than fixed routes. The simple geometry of picking up passengers closer to their destinations and dropping them off closer to their destinations, even with ride pooling, meaning more than one passenger per vehicle, means that the trips take longer than a fixed route that goes in a relatively straight path with set stops. Most microtransit systems are able to provide no more than 4 passengers trips per hour. 4 is great. It's usually less than that. And so for comparison, Westcat's local fixed routes, the least productive one serves around 4.2 passengers per hour, and the highest is about 11 passengers per hour. And that's pretty normal for, fixed routes in low density areas. And so the most important thing to know about microtransit for this conversation is that the majority of the cost of running of transit is in the labor. So with microtransit and with fixed route vehicles, the majority of cost is the driver. And so therefore, there's really minimal financial savings from operating a smaller vehicle in terms of the fuel and maintenance costs. And from what I just told you, it's unlikely that microtransit would actually increase the number of passengers per hour that could be served. So we're at a point now where there is a great wealth of knowledge regarding best practices and optimal conditions for microtransit. However, most of these are associated with additional operating and administrative overhead costs, particularly for Westcat. Successful microtransit systems must have adequate dispatch capacity and operational oversight. This is must have. And this would mean added staffing costs for Westcat. The technology platforms that enable systems to operate the service and also offer it to the public, through the apps, but also on the phone, must be paid for on an ongoing basis. And last, new microtransit service would require robust marketing and rider education. That's absolutely key. And again, this would be added administrative overhead for Westcat. And finally, As part of the onboard survey, we asked current passengers to rate the importance of 10 different potential service improvements. And so we used, quote, an on-demand door-to-door service that you reserve with an app, end quote, aka microtransit, received the lowest overall rating out of the 10. And this points to the potential loss of current passengers if any of the current fixed routes were converted to microtransit. So for all of these reasons, our recommendation is that microtransit is not suitable for Westcat at this time. One and the same? No? I didn't really think of them as separate, but it has a lot to do with the service area and the geography of it.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any additional questions or comments from, yes, Director Desai?
Thank you, Chair. Well, thank you for the presentation. I think with the conversation about possible elimination of a line that serves residents in the waterfront area of Hercules, as well as a possible reduction, first thing that comes to mind is microtransit, how that can aid residents in that area. I want to go back to the slide, the last slide we just saw here, which explained that Westcat riders are not interested in microtransit. And was that feedback that you got from the Westcat Evolution surveys that went out?
It is. The onboard survey, we got 640 passengers to return those surveys, and there's a lot of questions on there, so this is just one of those, but it was pretty, clear. It wasn't even rated somewhere in the middle. It was rated pretty low, and that means people gave it out of 0 to 7, they gave it on the 0 or 1.
Out of curiosity, what was the question that was posed exactly to folks in the survey?
So it was, please rate the importance of the following potential improvements. And there were ones like, I think the most popular was increase the frequency of the route I ride most often. Number 1, by far. Other ones were increase service on weekends, things like that. And one of them was, word for word, an on-demand door-to-door service that you reserve with an app, which is, because not everyone knows what microtransit is. Does that answer
It answers the question, for sure. Thank you. You mentioned, too, the cost of labor, right? And that's mostly on the bus or the microtransit operator. Have you factored in sort of the advance of technology for automated microtransit as well? I know we have some examples that we've seen. I think CCTA has been developing quite a few examples there, and there's been also Zooks and other examples there. Have you sort of thought about that in this conversation?
I've thought about it. I did not factor that into this one, though.
Gotcha. Do you have any sort of estimates in terms of how much that would cost?
I've just thought about it. I'd have to look more into it, but I mean, it's very compelling.
Gotcha. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
That's just a follow-up to that and to where I was headed with some of the stuff in the microtransit question. Do you feel that in our service area that there's an area that might benefit by, like, do you know what those Zooks vehicles are? These, I don't know. Yeah, okay, I don't know what people know, but man, you go to San Francisco. I mean, we're not in San Francisco, but wow, there's so many now. It's incredible. And I'm like, wow, that's, like, I haven't ridden in one yet. I've ridden in a Waymo, but I've never ridden in those. And I'm like, wow, what would that look like if we had something, and if there was a city that sponsored that, be it Hercules, be it Pinole, I don't know, something where it would make sense. Is there an area within our service area where that type of people mover is what I'll call it, we're able to get folks around?
Well, the benefit, what you're talking about, would be lowered operating costs, right? Because it's still technically probably would not increase the number of people that you could get around on a one-for-one basis in terms of providing the service, because it is still, door-to-door on demand, right? So it's still, a handful of people at the same time. You're never going to get a microtransit a trip that has 12 people on it all going to the same place, not very often. It does if you do it specifically and you constrain it to only being able to come from, say, a rail station and then out to a low-density neighborhood with, relatively clear streets. that are the boundaries, not going up into neighborhoods and stuff. That's about as efficient as you can get with microtransit. I have looked at your service area under that lens, and the thing is that where you have those types of areas, it's low density. It's such low density, neighborhoods. There's some areas where I've recommended reductions in service because there's just hardly anyone riding, that I thought, oh, maybe we could, offer this as a deviation. But the demand would likely not, would justify the implementing the whole new service model for that. Does that make sense? That's, my opinion.
Director Bailey?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. I would have thought that the microtransit would have been what people would have wanted, because it just seems like that's easier and you get point to point. So it's just good to hear that. I think that's what Westcat was. As I recall, when we moved to Hercules when I was a kid, or much younger, you called up, it was dial-a-ride, right? Which seems a little bit like that. So it's just interesting data. It's not what I would have thought the answer would have been, but we have what we have. So
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments here?
So just, there are two other elements of this presentation.
Okay.
Before we
And that was also a good lead into dial-a-ride. Also flexible transit service, a little different. So Westcat has two dial-a-ride programs that essentially function as one. The first is paratransit, which is required by the Americans with Disabilities Act as a complement to providing fixed route transit. And this is for people that have a disability that prohibits them from using regular fixed route transit, or inhibits. And the other one, which is not required by any law, but Westcat does anyways, is provide the senior dial-a-ride, which is open to anyone over the age of 65. So overall, Westcat's dial-a-ride programs are operating really well. I mean, I've seen other ones, and it's probably one of the best I've seen in terms of cost per passenger. You guys are able to sometimes offer same-day trips, which is usually not heard of. The fares are very, very low. The ADA says that you can charge double what the fixed route fare is for dial-a-ride trips, because it's door-to-door and takes longer and everything, but Westcat actually charges less. So the productivity is normal for dial-a-ride. It's averaged around about 2 passengers per service hour, and it has been around that for the last couple of years. I will say in September, it's the highest it's been since the pandemic at 2.2. So not a huge increase, but it's just something to pay attention to. Looking at 3 different months of trip data with origins and destinations, we saw that the shopping and medical destinations are by far the most common trip purposes and or places that people go to. But there's also a lot of people going to educational institutions, as well as older adult facilities and like living and senior centers. We, as part of the public engagement, we conducted 27 interviews with current dial-a-ride users, current at the time. And they were conducted over the telephone. There were structured questions, but often we just got into conversation. And they largely confirmed that shopping and medical were the main reasons that they used dial-a-ride. And their main challenge that emerged at the very top and far from the rest is that they're having a hard time calling in to book rides, to check on existing reservations, and to get help with trip planning. And these similar challenges were also brought up by people who called into customer service to submit a complaint or comment or accolade. They also expressed some unfamiliarity with the various aspects of how the system works, and we did hear this also from some older adults that were not current dial-a-ride passengers, but that we encountered at our other public engagement activities like the open house. We went to the senior center, things like that. But overall, the dial-a-ride passengers were very, very appreciative of the service, and especially the drivers. So looking at opportunities for dial-a-ride, we start with some great news. So the phone system is being replaced, fixed, and so that is going to address the number one issue or issues that we heard from current riders. And so that's nice. Do you have a estimate of timing on that?
We have a meeting with the preferred vendor tomorrow to finalise pricing and moving forward. So hopefully that will take into effect. And just it's an old system we've got, and we've known about the issues, and I think we're realising that we really need to make this investment. So we're moving ahead with that project as soon as we can.
And that's one of my favorite things about doing planning projects is that not everything just happens at the end. It's often in the process that things emerge as important and gets people talking. So we also heard from dispatch staff that it might be helpful to divide the responsibilities between dial-a-ride and fixed route, because dispatch staff are juggling a whole host of different tasks and things that they're tracking and things that come in, and so it might make things a little bit simpler for that. That is something that we can't really explore until after the new system goes in, but it sounds like a good idea. A couple of stakeholders that work with older adults at either senior living facilities or assisted living suggested that Westcat could offer group trips on dial-a-ride to shopping destinations. This is definitely done by other transit agencies, and it would be really simple for Westcat to do that, and it would be pretty efficient use of vehicle and driver time. So I recommend that. And then these last two dial-a-ride opportunities are a little squishy. It's the first one is I just really want to point out that Westcat's dial-a-ride service exists within a regional environment that contains several other operators of transportation services for older adults and people with disabilities. The county's accessible transportation strategic plan from 2021 lays out a lot of strategies for improving these services, adding services, and most importantly, mobility management, which is, at its core, coordination among all of these services for the passengers. Westcat is currently an active participant in these regional efforts and will continue to be. I just wanted to point that out. And then last, there's a lot of opportunity to address the public engagement results where there was a lack of awareness and understanding about Westcat's dial-a-ride programs. But these will be part of the upcoming marketing and communications plan, which I'll be presenting at the next meeting. Questions on that? Dial-a-ride? Comments?
Any questions or comments from the board?
Thank you for presenting. Not so much on the dial-a-ride, but the telephone system that's in place. Great to know that that's going to be improved. Let me think straight first. Does after calling and making a reservation, does the caller receive a text confirmation?
They're all the elements that we're putting into place. There's a number of new improvements to how communications and queue holds and things like that work that we haven't had. So part of the discussion tomorrow is just to finalise some of those and then how we implement them and put them in place. But ultimately, yes, that will be in the new system.
Thank you. That was what I was looking forward to. Because not only the passenger, but perhaps a caretaker of a passenger might be the one that has a phone. Otherwise, with memory issues, I can anticipate people might not recall whether they got through the call their booking was done, but then they don't recall whether they heard only that the booking was actually made. So glad to hear that written message via text will be sent to confirm that.
Yeah, thank you.
And Chair, one quick comment here. I appreciate the recommendation on increasing community awareness about this service. One thing that comes to mind here is, of course, great to really just increase the presence of our current marketing plan for this, but also meeting folks where they're at. First thing that comes to mind for me is in my city in Pinole, we have a brand new development for veterans, for seniors out here in San Pablo Avenue that just went up. Across the street, we also just have a brand new senior housing facility as well, and it's just a pretty dense development. And so I would love to, and maybe working with staff to go to those developments and talk with those residents to educate them about this dial ride service. So it's a good reminder. I just want to say thanks for the recommendation.
That's great.
Just to follow up on that, we have reached out and made those contacts with both of those new developments. So we've started that work.
Gotcha. Have you seen an increase in sort of ridership from those two developments?
I couldn't speak directly for those particular, but we've definitely done outreach to both facilities and work with the staff there.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Now come to our last service improvement topic, which is transit service to middle and high schools. It's very common for transit agencies to provide what is called tripper service, which adds capacity for getting middle and high school age students to school. This is usually done by an extension or a deviation or a partial reroute or just an added trip of an existing fixed route so that the service aligns with school bell times. And it's important to note that these are still open to the public by law, but they're aimed at getting kids to and from. Westcat operates school tripper service in the afternoon on routes 10 and 12 to Hercules Middle and High School. These trips have moderate ridership, and most of the students are going to the Hercules Transit Center. And there's an assumption in there, but I think it's correct. I won't go into the nitty-gritty details on the routing, but we have reason to believe that at least half are going to the Hercules Transit Center, and you'll see why I say that in a second. There's also Westcat operates AM and PM trippers on Route J, currently JL and JR, to Pinole Valley High. There's really good ridership in the afternoons, and about 40% of those students are getting off at BART. But there is very low ridership in the morning trippers. So in terms of opportunities for these, due to the moderate success of the PM trippers on routes 10 and 12 to Hercules Middle, I'm suggesting trying out or exploring doing some AM trippers on that. That due to the way that the routes are aligned, it might just be a slight change in the schedule. Also, I suggest on routes 10 and 12 is serving the Hercules Transit Center directly after the school, since so many students are going there anyways. It's currently not like that. Small service change, but I think it could have a big effect. And then last, again, there's this opportunity for increasing coordination, right? And this time with school representatives. Sharing information, exploring opportunities, having an ongoing consistent relationship so that, any service changes on either end or school changes are communicated is really important. And one of the things that could be discussed is why are the AM trippers on the J not being very used as a start. So what I'm going to describe next is my recommendation for school service. Westcat was approached by the vice principal of Pinole Middle School because he was concerned about poor student attendance and being affected by the availability of transportation, which is what he had heard from a few students. And so he wanted to explore the potential opportunities with Westcat and better understand what the current services were for getting his students to and from the school. And he has a very strong interest in collaboration. To that end, he provided anonymized student home addresses and their associated attendance records to me. I mapped and analyzed these, but I didn't think I should display the map to the public. So this is just the school's attendance zone. Unfortunately, the mapping didn't really produce any clear geographic relationship between proximity to the school, proximity to a transit route, and their attendance record. But it did show that many, many students are within walking distance, easy walking distance to a current Westcat route, namely the J or Route 16. And so to me, this means that there's an opportunity where small changes to existing routing and or timing of the current routes could make it easier for students to use transit to get to school. So next, I'm going to lay out a simple way to figure that out, simple planning process that would hopefully reveal what these small changes would be. And this process could be implemented or done with all of the schools in the service area, or probably more practically starting with a pilot, which Pinole Middle School would be ripe since they are already willing. So this is the simple process that could be used. You start with establishing that, that communication, the partnership, and then getting some qualitative feedback, starting with, what our students' needs. Then get some actual data, collect and analyze it, look at where students live, how that compares to existing transit services, what are some non-transit barriers, such as, freeways, lack of roads. Then look at potential opportunities. Maybe some changes or shifts in routing, maybe some tripper service, and then also look at other alternatives like safe roads to schools measures that could be appropriate. You'd look at the demand, survey the students to see if anyone's actually going to ride it, get input on the service design, and then most importantly, if you're going to go forward with it, communicate about it. Get the word out in as many ways as possible. And schools have a lot of methods for doing that, which is great. And then, start the pilot and track everything, key performance stuff, and, then adjust the service as needed. It's simple, it's small, could be relatively inexpensive, especially if you're starting with one school. Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Really, one more question to our general manager. Who among your staff would be likely to conduct an assessment or study as being proposed there?
Probably myself and Finn, the transit planner, would do the majority of the initial work.
Okay. So, at the sake of having my fellow board members possibly frown, I don't think they will greatly, but in your communication plan, I'm expecting to see that we may serve somehow, whether it's in promoting some of your recommendations or in helping make the connections, or being liaisons somehow with our usual activities out in our communities, our respective communities at all, and just to emphasize what may already be put in place or what's going to be put in place sometime next year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Or
Any additional questions from the board?
okay, so just one more slide. So up next, I'm going to incorporate your feedback that you've given me today and put it into the draft plan. Then we're going to get that out to stakeholders and make it available to the public. We're going to get changes back and comments back, incorporate those as appropriate. I'll also be working on a marketing communications plan. If you want to give me any more input to that, you can today, or just email me, send to Rob. Specifically to support, the service changes that I'm recommending and that will be implemented, but also as an ongoing good practice for Westcat. And then we will ask for acceptance of the draft final plan, and that will be that. So we're looking at one more meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. This question is, I guess, and it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. I guess I'll start with a question. Can one of our there's two questions. I think I know the answer to part. Is there a reason why we don't use cutaway buses? We've had this conversation. I just want to put it out there again. Is there a reason why we don't use cutaway buses when there's less traffic? We've heard the answer, but I just wanted to get you this.
I think it goes back to something that Ronnie said, the majority of the cost of putting the service out there is labour, and the operational challenges in swapping vehicles out in the middle of a driver's shift are you need two drivers to operate two different vehicles at the same time. So I think it's an operational challenge, it's a financial challenge, and I think that's the main reason. And I think it's always important that we need the capacity of the larger vehicles at certain times of the day. So having a smaller vehicle that swaps out, again, is just a financial and operational challenge.
So we don't keep double the buses parked somewhere, one for the small, short trips. Okay, thank you. And then the reason I ask is a lot of Hercules residents asked this question. I don't want to take too much away from just the general topic of this, but we know at the waterfront there's a development that's planned as of last Thursday. They have not submitted an application. So a lot of it seems like it was just to frustrate our residents. But if that does come in, that was a factor, and I just wanted to encourage the staff or the team at Westcat to coordinate with city staff, see if there's another way we can figure out some other turn. I'm not sure if buses can turn around on gravel versus dirt, if that's even possible. But so the point is there's some other land the city has where the actual transit center is supposed to go, and just encouraging us to keep that dialogue going, just in case an application is submitted sometime in the near
100%.
future.
We're more than happy to have those conversations.
Okay, appreciate that. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, just clarifying, this is a presentation and discussion item only, no action necessary. So we're moving on to committee reports, and we'll start with the general manager's report.
So just a couple of items. One is just a follow-up on the September was the Link's 20th anniversary, so we had a number of kind of giveaways for riders, and the main giveaway was, transit on the links was free for pretty much the entire month. There were 21 days we offered free transit on 20 days. So a significant ridership increase during the month. We were up around 20% on the previous month, and going into October, we've certainly maintained some of that ridership. So I think that was a good thing. We're currently having some internal discussions on some service changes to the link schedule specifically. I think we're realising the traffic impacts have really come back, and we are seeing, probably on a daily basis, we're seeing delays. We're kind of running behind schedule on a number of our trips in the afternoon. So I think we're working internally to see if we can add additional vehicle out there, and then basically retime the amount of time we give to get back and forth from San Francisco. So we're working on that, hopefully to have into effect early next year. Other thing I'll say is that, and this sort of links to that, is, there's times in the afternoon where we are running 10, 15 minutes down. So when a vehicle pulls up, there's more than 53 people or there's more than 54 people waiting in line. So we are experiencing times, particularly on Wednesdays and Thursdays, where we're asking people to either stand for the entire journey, we do allow a limited number of standees, or to wait for the next vehicle. So I think a lot of it is to do with just the fact that we're running behind, rather than, we're not seeing a huge amount of capacity. It's just that there's two buses where the people want to get on a bus. So we're working on that, hopefully have those changes into effect. I think the only other couple of things to update on is, we've continued to work with CCTA, with the other operators on BART feeder bus funds. So we have a couple of meetings set up in December with MTC staff, with MTC commissioners, with BART staff, with BART commissioners. So I think we're still working hard on kind of looking to come up with a solution for some of those funds. And then the final one is, we are still working with the state audit team, the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. We've had a significant number of meetings with them as staff, and we've given them a very large amount of paperwork and memos and board packets and all of the information. So we're continuing that work. I can't really share a lot of information about that, but it's ongoing. And as I say, there's been probably weekly meetings for the last two months with that committee. So with that, I'll happily answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? No? No questions? Okay. Thank you, General Manager. And now we're moving on to the WICTEC report.
All right, so at the last meeting, a couple items of interest. One was the El Cerrito Plaza BART project, the TOD BART project. That one, a report was made on it. So one of the buildings, the first building to be built, will be done starting up here pretty quick, and then the project will spill out over the next couple of years. So that's looking interesting. I think it's 5 buildings they're going to put in all total with the extra parking, but it's going to be interesting because there's so few parking spots available for the residents there. It's basically just a transit place. So be interesting to see how many cars end up on the streets. That was one of the topics of discussion. Then the consideration about giving stipends to the board members, that was brought up, and it was the staff looked into it, and the only real way to pay for it would be to raise the dues to the member agencies. So it was thought, well, if agencies wanted to give stipends, that they should do it themselves and not pay extra dues and then give the money to the council member or the member of the board. So those are the 2 items that were brought up that were of interest at the last meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions? None? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, which is correspondence. Any correspondence? None? Okay, thank you. Item 6, board communications and items for future board meetings. Director?
Just next time we meet will be after Thanksgiving, so I just want to thank the staff and the drivers for their service, and to stay safe and enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday as best as they can. So thank you all.
Thank you for that. Any addition? Director Person?
Yeah, and thank you. The picnic was amazing. So the, I don't know if you call that employee picnic or whatever, the Westcat picnic, that was awesome. So it was nice to see most of you there. And under this communication, one thing about marketing, December 13th in Rodeo, there's going to be a free ice skating rink for the children. I probably shouldn't be doing this because we're going to get packed full of people, but it would be really cool. And some kind of snow sled. There's going to be a Santa, a Grinch, and this is all for the community, all for the kids. And it would be amazing if we have a Westcat holiday bus, if it's possible, if we have one, to be there at that, maybe that event, if it's possible, with some of our marketing stuff. If we can make that happen, that would be amazing.
There's very exciting things happening in Rodeo right now, so I think we all do want to come out and see it. Any additional comments or questions?
Or minimally, is Wes still around? Wes, the Westcat mascot? That would be kind of a fun. Also,
I mean, he's still around.
maybe
No, she is still around.
he might show up in Rodeo, perhaps, on that day.
It'd be great if we could figure that out, if it works.
Okay, if there are no other communications from the board, the next item is adjournment. Yay. Happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.